That being said, covering your assets. And what we're seeing so much right now in the media is what's going on. We saw the rise of Hakimi, the football soccer player, and putting everything in his mama name. But even more so, there's a pattern of what's happening. And the pattern is the get-rich scheme by modern women. And let's take a second to make a few things clear. There's a lot of people, and I'm going to be checking, my phone periodically to make sure that those, those who are moderating, making sure that the volume is okay and everything is good for their viewing experience, for your experience. I want you to get value out of this. I have professionals, be it lawyers, realtors, all of those who call me and message me via email to give me information, insight, links to articles, and so it also acts as a library to bring all of these things together to benefit who? You. So what we're going to talk about today is covering your assets or making sure you protect yourself, and some of the examples of men who didn't and men who did. Basically, asset protection. This is definitely something that you're going to watch, and make sure you pay attention to the end, where we're going to discuss Cayman Island accounts as well as irrevocable trusts, because I'm going to say something out of the norm here, but those prenups, they're not working. So with that being said, one of the first articles that I want to discuss is an article about, and this one is probably one of the funniest ones, but let's go ahead and get into it. Why don't we? Now, in this article, which hopefully you can see it, if not, I will read it. But this came from the Daily Mail, and again, we want to make sure we use factual information. And I did a YouTube or short on TikTok. I did something on Facebook. It was only 1 minute, kind of a shock jock, making you go ahead and jump and pay attention to it. But what I said was, come on, stop the cat. Y'all didn't build all that wealth. You didn't sit out there grinding and get your money. You got your money because some man believed in you, looked at you as a forever relationship, as a wife. And these women are coming up on millions, if not billions of dollars because of the efforts of men. So this is the article. More than 100 women now on the rich list, but just 2 have made their own fortunes, and most have inherited or won millions from divorce. And what it goes on to in this article, I'm going to scroll through a little bit, is it talks about some of these ladies, and how wealth was built. Self-made millionaire on the left and right. The lady who made Harry Potter, the lady on the right, she created Jimmy Choo shoes. She's worth $570 million. J.K. Rowling on the left, who also wrote the whole Harry Potter series, is worth $180 million. But as we go down the list, look at this lady right here. She married this man, a Russian oligarch. He must be like 5 feet tall. Look at the height difference between the two. And she's pregnant. She came off with a grip of cash divorcing this man. This lady as well. Also believed to have been awarded 150 million euros when she divorced her husband. And the one lady on the right came up 740 million euros divorcing Bernie. I can't pronounce his name, but he's a Russian oligarch. As we go down the list of some of these hard-working boss women, right there, dead center. She is a former wife of Galliano. She's set to walk away with 100 million euros. And he owns, by the way, what is it? The Chelsea Football Club in England. Of course, the Queen of England, pillaging African nations for her wealth. Here we go again. Another lady. Combined total mega rich. In 2011, she divorced this, became the 21st richest with with a fortune of 2 billion euros. This is the face of men who just got fleeced in court. Am I excited about this? No, but this is, when people tell me about, just get a prenup, you think these dudes didn't have prenups? You really think this dude is a Russian oligarch? You think your little LegalZoom $500, $200 prenup and him, a billionaire, couldn't stop it? Nah, prenups don't work. Prenups don't work. Because if we don't have the command and power of some of the legal teams that these gentlemen have, there's no hope for us. There's no hope for us. Look at these men. If these gentlemen couldn't break through and secure the bag with an attorney, what are our chances? Right? And that's the question you have to ask yourself, is with the kinds of reserves and money these men have. This is why when people say to me, get a prenup, only these two women made their money on their own. She is the owner or co-owner and founder of Jimmy Choo Shoes. Ain't got a pair of shoes that start less than $600. And J.K. Rowling. And of course, J.K. Rowling is the Harry Potter series. But let's move on. Here's an article, and it's entitled "The Divorce Ponzi Scheme." And on the front of it, Bill Gates and Melinda Gates. Right? So again, gentlemen, when you tell me that prenups are the answer, I beg to differ. Prenups are not the answer. If anything, their blind belief in a system. You need to protect your assets. And I'm sorry, I'm coming off of a little bit of a cold, so I'm coughing here and there and muting the mic so that you guys aren't burdened by listening to me gagging. Hence my favorite cognac. But anyway, Sue Ann Arnold, through divorce, 1 billion US. She was the wife of an oil baron and CEO of Continental Resources. They are huge in the United States. Number 4, another hardworking boss chick who made her money on her own, a strong and independent. Sue Gross, ex-wife of Bill Gross, billionaire founder of the investment management firm PIMCO, walked away from her 32-year marriage with $1.3 billion. Elaine Wynn, from the Wynn casinos in Las Vegas, $2 billion. Melinda Gates, Bill Gates, Microsoft, $1.8 billion. And of course, Mackenzie, her husband owned or still owns Amazon. And she walked away, number 1 on the list, $57.7 billion by divorcing the richest man on earth, Jeff Bezos. We need to have a conversation about this. Because I'm sorry, the narrative in the news is that, all of these strong boss babes are making a killing. They're strong and independent, and they're a boss chick, and they handle their 9-to-5 business and all of these things. And that's the mantra in the music And you got to have a job if you want to get with me. But it looks like the fastest vehicle towards wealth and coming up is not hard work and effort. Apparently for these women, these 5 billionaires, it's divorce. And do you really need $1 billion from divorce? These laws are screwed. But wait, here comes our savior, right? Hakimi with the boss move. And this was the original article. Wife of Moroccan soccer star loses his divorce settlement as his fortune is in his mother's name. Now Hakimi is worth 70 million. Now the interesting part of this article is that he's 24 and his ex-wife 36. They were married 3 years ago when he was 21 years old and believed to have been dating since he was 19. So you take 5 years off of that, she was 31 years old messing with a 19-year-old. So I don't want to hear none of this talk by women about, she was just a baby, you married that young girl. Then explain this. Explain what's happening with Hakimi. Anyway, as the story goes, she went to file divorce because apparently rape charges were filed on him. So coincidentally, after the rape charges were filed and he alleges it's just an extortion to get money out of him, she filed divorce. But apparently, court officials determined after she filed divorce, telling her that even his salary was registered under his mother's name. Now, apparently what happened, for those who haven't heard the whole story, she goes to file courts for papers. Mind you, she's worth millions herself as an actress. So what does she need money for if she's strong and independent? And these women don't need no man, right? So she goes in there and says, I want half. Even though she has millions of her own, right? What are you going to do? Dress the baby in gold? Just asking a question here. We're going to have diamond showers, and the kids that age eat, sleep, poop just like any other kid. Your wardrobe is not that serious, especially when you have nannies taking care of the kids all the time anyway. So anyway, I digress. She goes up in there, and this gentleman makes $215,000 a week. And I don't know if it includes, advertising, sponsorship, or is it just his straight salary from playing soccer or football, depending on what part of the world you're in. So she goes ahead and asks for half. She goes in to ask for half, and his attorney says he doesn't have any assets. And they pull out the paperwork showing there's nothing in his name. One would guess that he is an employee of his mother through a corporation. So I can only imagine the cursing and swearing that happened when she pulled her lawyer out into the corner and said, what do you mean? Didn't you research this? And apparently she was on holiday with their 2 children in Dubai, that's where she decided she wanted a divorce. As I'm scrolling through the article and reading for you, a 23-year-old woman came forward and is alleging rape. His ex-wife is banging. She's beautiful. Actress from Spain, apparently Muslim as well. He's the hot story, and everybody's saying put everything in your mother's name. And what I'm going to say to you is this: you have to have an umbrella approach towards all of this stuff, especially with modern women in America. And again, I didn't state this before, but I'm going to state it again. We're not talking about all women. There's some good, loving, great traditional women in this country. Some of them messaged me, hey, keep it up. Gordon, keep going. I love your content. Now, unfortunately, these ladies will, like and subscribe, and I appreciate that. But what they're not doing is going around telling their sisters and their friends and calling them out on why they're doing bad stuff. Instead, they just remain silent And by doing that, you allow that mindset to perpetuate. And when you do that, it's almost like agreeing, because you're not letting them know, you're not operating in your true purpose as a feminine woman, as a traditional woman. So when you hear me talking, most of the comments that I'm making, 90% of them are directed towards avoiding modern women in modern society. They're not good for your health. They're not good for anything that you're, especially building a family. So, I mean, the issue comes down to, what do you do, right? Hakimi is the savior, but putting everything in your mother's name is only one component. You still have to have the legal aspect in terms of, be it protected goods, business set up. You still need LLCs or corporations set up. These things can be expensive. Luckily for you, continue watching this show. Your donations, as you can see, the stream going towards Patreon, Venmo, PayPal, YouTube. Your donations and contributions to this show is not to line my pockets. I want to bring professionals. I want to bring in skilled attorneys to come in to answer questions for you guys. Some of these attorneys cost $500 an hour. I want you to have the best advice. I want you to get sound counsel. Some of the forms will be available as downloads on my website, on the Toxic Reality Show website. Some of them will be things that you're going to have to get an attorney for. By profession, I'm a mortgage broker. I own a mortgage company called Mortgage Patriots. We're licensed in a number of states in America. So if you are looking for a mortgage and assistance towards using home ownership as a vehicle to become a permanent passport brother and leave the modern women of America and the unfair legalities that exist and move to another country like Thailand, Colombia, Panama, Uruguay, Brazil, Dominican Republic. Those are the common ones, but there's plenty of smaller countries that you could go to, Belize, where you have better rights, you are better protected, and your American money is huge. Just for a quick example as a diversion here, the median income in Colombia is $13,000, $14,000 US a year. So if you can figure out a way to bring 30,000 of passive income while you are living in Colombia, you're living like a king. You're treated with respect. Have as many children as you want. That woman will respect you and do the basic things like give you peace, cook, clean, honor you, respect you, so that you also can reward her as a traditional man would for being that source of peace, and allowing, with that peace, allowing you to further develop yourself as a man in your business. But, so after the court case where the judge basically, or Hakimi's lawyers, said that, you know, hey, he doesn't have any money. Everything's in his mama's name. After that, this was the party where Hakimi was dancing with mama. Let's let that rip. I would venture to guess that mom paid for the party too. But, you know, this is just one vehicle. There he is dancing in the hotel after celebrating not getting fleeced because he put everything in his mama's name. So here's another article for you. And in this article, you know, we're going to have to go ahead and go into some other aspects or another technique. So far, we've discussed technique number one. Putting everything in your mother's name. Great idea. Set up an LLC. Don't put your name on it. You cannot spend any money out of it for like McDonald's, going to parties, unless it is a business expense. Because what you don't want is the corporate veil being pierced. The reason why I'm looking up is I have a large screen TV where I'm able to see everything you're seeing live, I see in front of me. But back to an LLC. when you set up an LLC in your mother's name, you have to make sure and be careful of putting your name on it as a co-signer. You can be an additional person on the account where you have access to the debit card and you have access to the checkbook, but the account is owned by your mother. Okay? And when you spend money on it, you can't be like, oh, I was out in the club partying, because if you go to court and they're going to try, your wife, baby mama, is going to try and pierce the corporate veil. And what that means is there's a veil of protection around you when you have an LLC. If they can prove that this really isn't a LLC, but just a shadow account of his real, an extension of his personal spending, by piercing that, it becomes a personal account, and then they have access to it. Half, child support, whatever, it can be shown as income. So when you open it, you could only get a debit card. I'm sure Hakimi had the same setup. He was able to use the credit card to go ahead off of the personal account to go buy a $200,000-$300,000 card. Probably had a black Amex in the name of the LLC created by his mother, right? And then he could still spend, because these are all business expenses. Uniforms, that's part of doing business. He could buy houses in the name of the LLC because it's in her mother's name, and it is a business expense. The rent collected from houses also are in the LLC and are protected from the greedy modern woman baby mama. So here's a new one. Now, I know this one I did a little bit of research on it, and this one is fascinating. In this example, this gentleman, who his wife is 59 years old, and they got married 20 years ago when she was 39 years old. He was 70. 39, 70, do the math, 31-year age difference. They had a couple kids. What he did, which was ingenious, 3 months after they got married, they flew to the Dominican Republic. In the Dominican Republic, they have two types of divorce, and one type is a one-party divorce, meaning that if you can cite a disagreement in the marriage, you could file by yourself if you say, I don't know where she is. Now, she was in a nightclub. I don't know what happened, and how his lawyer structured it, but Dominican Republic is a one-party notification state. So what he did was they flew down there for honeymoon extended, right? This guy is a lawyer. She was a Italian literature professor at Boston College. And of course, she loved traveling. And so he swept a 70-year-old man. She's 39. She got with him, got married. And so 3 months, again, let me catch you back up to the story. 3 months into the marriage, they go on a trip to the Dominican Republic. He goes and files divorce papers without her knowledge. Leaves it alone, forgets about it. They're living for 20 years in marital bliss. They have children. They're acting as husband and wife. She has no clue what's going on. Then hot girl summer shows up. She was thinking, she's like, man, this guy's 90 years old now. I'm 59. I thought he would have croaked by now, and I thought I would have cashed in on all his money. So the heck with it. I'm going to go ahead and file divorce at 60 years old to go out there as if the wall, it doesn't exist. She goes and files divorce. She gets to court, and his lawyer pulls out, you've already been divorced for over 19 years. She has no leg to stand on because they've been divorced that long. No alimony because they haven't even been married a year. She said that he stole in the article. She said, I realize now that during all these years of joy and happiness and off difficult moments we shared together, my husband lied to me and had the Dominican divorce back. It's what's hurting to me the most that he lied. No, you all would have lived the rest of your life and you would have known a thing and you would have continued to exist as husband and wife. You're the one who broke the sanctity of marriage, the purity of marriage, because you wanted to get a divorce and cash in on the money. And it took 20 years for him to figure out what he knew in the beginning. You only got with him for the money. So let's talk about that, right? What is a Dominican divorce? And my apologies, gentlemen. This thing is so small, but this is an article from the U.S. Embassy in the Dominican Republic. And this thing has been used so many times by men that the U.S. Embassy felt a need to define divorce, the types of divorce in the Dominican Republic. And that if you're a resident of the Dominican Republic, it's easier, hint, hint. It ain't hard to become a resident of the Dominican Republic, by the way, gentlemen. Or if you're a foreigner, can obtain a divorce for cause. Examples include incompatibility of character, alleged adultery, etc. If he or she resided in the Dominican Republic and the cause of action or reason for the divorce arose during the time of residence, which means you fly in there, become a resident of Dominican Republic after 30 days, and you allege whatever the excuses and the examples are, the next step is to have the judgment pronounced. Now, in the last example where the prominent lawyer, there's one mistake that he made that could cost him. You're supposed to file in the newspaper, and it says here on the U.S. Embassy website that you are supposed to file in a publication. And I believe it has to be in there for 2 weeks in any jackleg newspaper in the Dominican Republic. Doesn't matter what it is, as long as it's in a newspaper and it runs for 2 weeks for the public to see that you filed divorce, it is valid. And this man was able to secure that. And again, they say there's two types of available, divorce by mutual consent and divorce by cause. The one he must have used was by, quote, mutual consent. In such divorces, the demanding party does not have to prove a specific cause for dissolving the bond of matrimony, but rather must show mutual agreement to dissolve the marriage. What does show mutual agreement if she doesn't have to be in the court with you? Although residency is not required, at least one of the parties must appear at the hearing. I will read that again. Although residency is not required, U.S. Embassy, at least one of the parties must appear at the hearing. An attorney, this is the best part, an attorney authorized by the power of the attorney duly filed in the civil registry office may represent the other party. So if you walk in there and say, I don't have cause, but she and I agree to mutually dissolve this marriage, and somebody else, a court-appointed attorney, could step and say, well, I'm going to represent her behalf. May. If they don't, the judge is sitting there looking at you like, we both agree this was the wrong thing. We got married 3 months ago, and it just didn't make any sense for us to go through with this. You know, I'm 70, she's 40 years old. It was just a crazy night in Vegas. Understand, sir. What you have to look at, if you are stupid enough, and I say that with all due respect, because the way the laws are in America, it's a coin toss, 50-50 chance of divorce, and 80%, and I'm going to go ahead and sound like a parrot, we know the numbers, 80% of divorces are initiated by women. If she has a college degree, 90%. Now, women will say, that's because all of the men are bad and the men are horrible and blah, blah, blah. 90% of men are just horrible. So for all you grandmothers and mothers, 90% of these women say that you don't know how to raise your son properly, that you screwed up raising your son. That's what they're saying. 90%. And 90% of you women who don't like what I just said are raising your sons improperly, because the statistic goes on. If another college-educated woman marries your son, it's you who raised your son, right? I could do bad all by myself. He's messed up because of you. So you didn't do it right. Or maybe not all of these women are virtuous and true in their intentions and belief and adhering to holy matrimony. Finally, we've got, and last, I want to talk to you briefly about, and let's recap. We started with, how to go ahead and prenups. And you know what? For giggles, you can go ahead and do a prenup, right? But we also talked about the Dominican Republic being an option, filing divorce. And also, going ahead and, first one was putting everything in your mother's name, right? Setting up an LLC. In some states, it's $50 or $100. You could do it from home at 2 in the morning, wake up at 8 o'clock. When the IRS opens up, you go ahead and file the papers, and they go ahead and give you an EIN number. Now it's an LLC, or it's an Articles of Organization is what it's called. And then you go to the IRS website, and within 5 minutes, they give you an EIN number, which is the equivalent of a Social Security number. You take those two items and a $50 check, or $25, depending on the bank, and you open up a business account, or mom does. And she adds you as an additional signator on the account. You're allowed to use the bank card. You get your own bank card with your name on it. Mom does too. And you get a checkbook where you are authorized to sign on her behalf. Or she, if you don't feel comfortable, then she does it. Maybe you're the son who wants to make sure mom is okay, and you take 80% of your money because you trust your mother. And again, that's a strong word. You better make sure you trust mom. And your mother then operates in that sense and helps and uses her wisdom and business knowledge to properly invest your money, not only for you, but for your seed. In our final example, and again, we're dealing in facts here on a Toxic Reality Show, right? In our final example, we're going to go ahead and we're going to talk about the irrevocable trust and spend a few moments on that. All right. So what is an irrevocable trust? It's the hardest of the two. It's not a great explanation, but do rest assured, gentlemen, we will go into more detail with the difference on another show where we talk primarily about irrevocable trusts versus revocable trusts. The harder one for someone to break in terms of divorce or in lawsuit is the irrevocable. So we're going to primarily, in this short segment, discuss the irrevocable trust. Now, what does that mean? Again, what does Rupert do? Mortgages. I own a mortgage company, right? So let's say you call me up. Hey, Gordon, I found some properties in, Baltimore, in Atlanta, in Detroit, in New York, wherever it is. And, I can make about $500 a month profit on each one. My plan is, I heard what you said. I want to get up to about $10,000 a month. Whoa, brother, $120,000 a year? You trying to ball out in Colombia, Dominican Republic? Like, that's crazy money. I want to make sure I'm taken care of while I'm there. I'm in my 20s, 30s, 40s. This is what I want to do. Can you help me? And let's plan. Okay. I said, you have the LLC set up. You got stuff in mama's name. Did you download the irrevocable trust that I told you about? Did you set it up and get it registered? Is it registered with the state? Excellent. So what you do now, if you think about it, you're trying to make $10,000 a month, right? And if each property is making $500, right? So do the math, right? We're going to go ahead and buy, 20 properties, right? We're going to do 20 properties so you can make $10,000. For those slow with the math, I'm here for you, brother. 2 properties times $500 a month is $1,000. We're going to do that 10 times, right? And 10 times is $10,000. So you're going to buy 10 properties. But here's the beautiful part. If you raise rents like most landlords do at 5% every year, if you start off at like $1,000 a month rent, and you bumping it up 50, and you're using the power of compound interest. Year one, it's 50. Year two, it might be 55 or go up a little bit more. By the time you're done in 10, 15, 20 years, and you collected an extra on top of that 500 that you initially set, now you're getting 1,000 extra. So you've blown past your projections of 10,000 a month. In 10 years, if you buy 2 or 3 the first year or just stack them up, all of a sudden, you ain't doing 10 no more. You're doing 15, 20. And it's crazy money. So you living in a Caribbean country where the median income is 15, 20,000, and you pulling down 120, 150,000 a year. Irrevocable trust. What does this do for you? Irrevocable trust. You buy that house. We turn over, and once you put it inside the trust, you give up all decision-making rights. And the trust guarantor or supervisor or supervisors handle the day-to-day proceedings. Now, some people put when they pass, they might put 100,000, 200,000. If you do that, and your son or daughter takes $1,000 or $10,000 out, it is added to their income on their tax return, and then they have to pay taxes on it. Right? So what you want to do? Now, if it's a property, you buy a house for $200,000, brownstone, I don't know what it is, a triple decker, a single family, wherever you are, you're getting a cheap piece of junk property that you can afford, live in, and fix it up, and then you're going to put some tenants in it, right? So you can make that profit and go back to living in an apartment, or you just grinding because you're trying to just buy properties, right? So you go ahead and you take that. So now the property goes into the irrevocable trust. It is now protected. Technically, it's not even in your name anymore, right? On paper, John Smith or Gordon Nathaniel doesn't own 123 Main Street because it is in an irrevocable trust, which can be considered a different person, a different entity. It ain't mine. I just am a supervisor of that property. That's it. I don't own it. I'm a manager. I'm a supervisor. That's it. So now you've gotten away from the liability. It is protected from you, from your baby mama trying to sue you and take half of it or claim it and say you owe me money. She can't touch it, right? Let me go ahead and so by doing so, she is now, you are protected from her, right? So now that you are protected from her and her mischievous ways, you like that? That was kind of smooth. I just went in there and handled the business real quick, and tried to do it all seamless like. So it was all lovey when I got it done, right? So here's the thing. You are protected now from her coming after you and trying to take half. She can't touch you. Now the profits, now let's scroll down a little bit and look at how that works. The profits of the property, let's say like we talked about, hey, Gordon, I want a property that makes me $500 a month. In this excellent article that you probably can't read, but I'll put a link to it in the comments, it talks about what the taxes are. So let's say, okay, we're going to do some math again, right? Because I'm your mortgage guy. I know the numbers. So you're making $500 a month times 12 months. That means the property is making $6,000. If you show that you had no expenses, you didn't have to paint nothing, fix nothing, no damages, no dishwasher replacement, nothing, your tax on that money is only 10%. When you make $6,000 on your W-2, you paying 25%. You understand why the super rich and wealthy have everything in trusts? This is how they come up, man. They only paying 10%. And but Rupert, that don't make sense. I make $50,000 a year. Set up 5 trusts. I make $50,000 a year. The next bracket is $10,000 to $40,000. You only pay 12%. Here's the screamer. When you go over $40,526 to 86, you paying 22% taxes, which is still, you bump up into a different income bracket when you go, when you're up to 86. You're still saving, you ain't at no 30%. These are the vehicles the super wealthy use to create generational wealth. These are the types of things that we are going to discuss on this show. I'm not here just to sit up here and talk about these women all day. I want you to come up. I don't care you white, brown, Asian, green, orange, Martian, Plutonian. I don't care where you're from. We're going to collect money. We're going to stay on our purpose. And we're going to do crazy stuff like go to football games and toxic reality show corner and tailgate. And we just going to ball out, right? We're going to have a good time, right? And that's how we do it, because Gordon showed me how to take the income from my property and only, because here's the thing, right? You make $6,000 with one. Now let's say you're a cheapskate. Or you say, you know what, Gordon, I'm not as cheap as you. I'll go to the 12% bracket because it's too hard for me to photocopy the same paper I created 123 Main Street Irrevocable Trust and then 123 Main Street number 2 Irrevocable Trust. So you're like, you know what, I'm willing to give up 2% of the money to the government because I'm, I don't know, patriotic. Okay. And how many properties can we put inside 40,000 profit, assuming you don't have any expenses? We could do about 6 properties making $500 a month each, right? We set up 3 trusts. You got 20 properties now, only paying 12% taxes. Gentlemen, this is what we're talking about when we talk about generational wealth. And if you trust me, and let me finance and help get you financing for your mortgages. This is what I do. I got no money down programs. I got, 20% down investor properties. I work with all kinds of people, men, women. You got the house, you got the home, I got the loan. Not going to stop me. And of course, ethically. I'm not going to create numbers for you, but everything I'm telling you is available online and you can download and look at it for yourself. So that's what we do. We put those properties in an irrevocable trust. Now here's the problem. You're going to say, well, Gordon, I now show extra money and I show extra money on my income, and now my baby mama going to come after me for the profit. All right. I didn't even bring up the link. Oh, brothers. So the irrevocable trust. Okay, so here's the sweet part, because I'm not going to keep y'all all night. It's almost 8 o'clock. Here's the sweet part. Cayman Island account. For my Passport brothers out there, and I'm in the Passport Brothers group, I invite you all to join. Good brothers who are traveling all over, black and white, whatever race, common creed. It's just men who are sick of the system. I believe the original Passport brothers are military who went to Guam and other such countries and found wives overseas. But how does this work for you? Why bring up a Cayman account? Well, a Cayman account, some people compare them to Swiss bank accounts. And there's a number of vehicles you can use to hire a company that is based in the Cayman Islands. Now, for some of you brothers that provide tax and consulting services, and we're going to have some featured on this show, I'm telling you, I'm bringing you value. And I would appreciate your support, a cup of coffee, because the kind of consultation that you would pay an attorney for is a few $100 an hour to tell you about all of this stuff and setting it up. I will have a copy of an irrevocable trust that you could set up in your state, a generic one, and tell you where to find links to find it. Here's a hint. Irrevocable trust in whatever state you're in. That's it. And there's copies. I believe there's a company called freeforms.com or something, and you could download a copy of an irrevocable trust, set it up, pay a notary, which I am as well, pay them $20 to go ahead and notarize, file those documents with the court, and 123 Main Street Trust is set up. And then we start buying you properties. But how does the Cayman Islands play into this? Let me tell you how. Let's say that there's a company that offers consulting services. Maybe you have one that you offer consulting services for people. I know I'm going to have one very soon on my next trip to Cayman Islands. Well, let's say you go ahead and set one up, right? You pay this consulting company to offer advice on creating data, charts and graphs, or to do your taxes, or to any kind of service that you would hire someone to do. Keep track of your invoices, keep your Explorer file organized and delete stuff for you. Maybe put your QuickBooks entries for your bank statements on an Excel spreadsheet. I don't know. But let's say you have this $500 every month that you're making extra in profit. And you happen to pay this consulting company $300 to monitor the expenses that are coming, the rent that's coming in, and putting them into the savings account and handling all your bookkeeping services. So now your net income has been reduced from 500 down to 200. And that money is now overseas in another company. See, when you hear presidents talking every election cycle about repatriating funds, what they're talking about is people have used the Cayman Island accounts and others and moved tons of money. I'm talking about $200-300. When you're talking about people who have expense accounts of $1 million a month that they're moving to a Cayman account, and they've got now 50 million sitting offshore, and they decide, oh, we're going to reduce the capital gains on that repatriated funds from 30% down to 10. What do the super wealthy do? They bring all that money back. Man, I'll go ahead and pay the ransom on, I'll pay 5 million to bring 50 back in, bring 45 in. And they take that 45, invest it in their business, make the business make even more money, and pay the consulting company 2 million a month. And by the time they're done with this, every election cycle, every 4 years, they went from 10 million to 25 million in 4 years, then to 50 million in 4 years, and then they're doing 100. You could do the same thing with a smaller scope of money. These are the things that people don't talk about, and why many of poor people, because of lack of knowledge, they perish. I'm giving you that knowledge here. I could use your support. I invite you to like and subscribe. Please like and subscribe to help me to bring more content and allow YouTube to recognize our fans. Now, what that means is for some of you on Facebook, where I've got 20,000 people, or TikTok, where there's another 20,000, please, brothers, go over to the YouTube, go to YouTube, type in Toxic Reality Show, like and subscribe. Or you want to throw a brother $5 and say, you know what, I appreciate $500 to $1,000 worth of consultation for me to watch and guide and talk to you. I'd like to send you an email. You can send me an email, info@Toxic Reality Show, to say, hey, did you see this video? You should talk about X, Y, and Z. Or, hey, are you licensed in my state? I'd like to talk to you about getting a mortgage and beginning a path towards financial freedom and inevitably starting my family overseas. Can you help me with that, Gordon? Yes, I can. Again, licensed mortgage broker in the United States, in a bunch of different states. That's what I do for a living, okay? And I could do it anywhere in the world, including kicking back in Colombia or Brazil with my feet up. So all that being said, I need you to like and subscribe. Show some love. Let me hit all my sound effects and whatchamacallit. Again, I'm your host, Gordon Nathaniel, on the Toxic Reality Show, bringing you valuable, precious content, factual information. And we're going to get in on how to cover your assets and free yourself from the liability of the vulturous modern women. Again, traditional women love y'all. Wish you were more vocal, but love y'all. But gentlemen, protect yourself. It's summer coming up. Don't let a miniskirt cost you 20 years of financial freedom. With that, we out. And thank you for coming to the Toxic Reality Show every Sunday. 7 o'clock Mountain, 6 o'clock on the West Coast, 9 o'clock on the East Coast. Please watch the video, loop it, let it play in the background. You're not going to get a lot of these financial concepts the first time, but listen more, and we're going to break down your donations and your contribution. I'm grateful and thankful. Had a brother send me $1. That's all he had. Shout out to you, brother. I am grateful for anything that you can spare. I know it's tight. And these vulturous baby mamas in his ass. So it is what it is. You know, do what you can. Go over and like and subscribe on YouTube. Throw a brother $5, a cup of coffee. We're going to bring you more content. We're going to bring in licensed professionals, lawyers, accountants, and give you some advice and wisdom on protecting your assets. With that, we out.